There's a scourge creeping into technical writing, a short, 5-letter word that threatens to undermine everything scientists have tried to accomplish since the beginning of the Enlightenment. P-R-O-V-E. Prove. It's insidious. It promises more than it can deliver. It fundamentally misrepresents what science is all about. It sows mistrust between the scientific community and the public it serves. It should be cast forever into oblivion, or at least back to the hellscape from which it came. Oh, I can hear many of you saying, what could possibly be wrong with the word prove? Isn't that what science is all about? That so many of you might have that question pop into your minds demonstrates just how nefarious that evil word is. Oh, don't get me wrong, it started out innocently enough. These things always do. Prove comes from the Latin probare, meaning to demonstrate or to test. Nothing wrong with that. But over the centuries, it wormed its way into French and then into English, taking on new connotations along the way. Where prove really took a wrong turn, though, was when it decided to take up a career in law. That's where it got all high and mighty. I mean, proving dough is one thing. That just means you're demonstrating yeast is working. Demonstrating that someone was at the scene of a crime, demonstrating that they had the means and motive to commit a crime, well, that takes prove to a whole nother level, into realms prove had never known before. It's that beyond a reasonable doubt meaning that makes prove so utterly unsuitable in scientific discourse, why prove and its derivatives should never appear in scientific papers, why you should eliminate it from your vocabulary unless, of course, you're writing about court cases or doing advanced geometry, which is a different story. You see, an underlying premise of science is that the scientific method doesn't, in fact, prove anything. I know that sounds weird. I know that throws your intuition into a tailspin, but hear me out. If you've had an introductory science course, then you likely remember that a cornerstone of the scientific method is hypothesis testing. Scientists make observations about the world, use those observations to formulate hypotheses, and then test those hypotheses. That's the process everybody seems to remember, and it's not wrong. It's just that it doesn't pay enough attention to what makes a hypothesis in the first place. Namely, a valid hypothesis must be falsifiable. In other words, for a hypothesis to be useful, you have to be able to disprove it. Let's take an example. Suppose, as we're reviewing the literature, we notice that people with a lot of fiber in their diets have lower rates of colon cancer. Based on that observation, we hypothesize that eating bran muffins for breakfast every morning may prevent colon cancer. That's a perfectly valid hypothesis. We can absolutely put it to the test. For instance, we can survey people about what they typically eat for breakfast and look at their health records. If we find that those people who eat bran muffins every morning have the same rates of colon cancer as everyone else, then we have disproven our hypothesis, and we know that eating bran muffins is not the miracle cure we've been hoping for. That's what we mean by falsifiable. When you set up a hypothesis, you must set it up in such a way that your experimental design can disprove it. That's precisely what makes science so powerful. Scientists are constantly coming up with ideas about how the world works and then mercilessly trying to prove themselves wrong. Okay, that makes sense, but what if we carry out our muffin study and find out that the people who eat bran muffins every morning do have lower rates of colon cancer? What then? Haven't we proven our hypothesis? No, absolutely not. Put that crazy thought out of your head. We may not have disproven our hypothesis, but we absolutely, unequivocally, have not proven it. Why? Because, as Ben Goldacre observes, people who eat bran muffins for breakfast every morning are freaks. The people who voluntarily do that to themselves are simply not like other people. They're likely to be wealthier than the general population. They have better access to healthcare. They eat all sorts of other things that normal people don't. They have professional trainers and do yoga and go on juice cleanses. In short, there are all sorts of other ways people who eat bran muffins for breakfast are different from the rest of the population. So the lower rates of colon cancer may have absolutely nothing to do with bran muffins, but to a host of unrelated factors that just happen to correlate. No, results supporting our hypothesis would only encourage us to continue with better experimental designs, ones that could control for all those other factors and probably more. Each one set up in a way that we could crush our dreams of preventing colon cancer with bran muffins. Now, if years of experimentation by many different researchers controlling for every imaginable factor under the sun failed to disprove the hypothesis, we feel fairly confident that the recommendation to eat bran muffins is sound medical advice. Even then, though, it would never be so crass as to say we had proven bran muffins prevent colon cancer. So, eliminate that word, strike it from your vocabulary, mercilessly ridicule anyone who uses the evil word in technical writing, cackle at them maniacally. Okay, don't ridicule anyone, that's not nice, it's also not helpful. Just know that if somebody uses the P word, they probably don't have a firm grasp of how science actually works. Remember, in all things, be gentle with yourself and kind to one another. Thanks for watching.